The Galactic Council considered itself the ultimate authority on peace. Founded after millennia of interstellar conflict, it now served as an umbrella government spanning 600 member species. War was forbidden by charter. Diplomacy reigned supreme. The council chambers echoed not with the threats of warlords, but with the sterile, polite language of policy. They had studied every member civilization, assessed their psychological profiles, cataloged their tolerance for risk. Their analysts were confident. Humans were averse to conflict. They feared war. The assumption had grown into doctrine. Earth's entry into the Council decades ago came with fanfare and skepticism. Here was a race from a death world, physically unremarkable, behaviorally volatile, and emotionally unstable. But their delegation was polite. Their treaties were clean. They followed protocol. So the Council categorized them as emotionally expressive, but ultimately non-aggressive. That conclusion had remained unchallenged until the Krell offensive began. The Krell Dominion had not signed the Galactic Concord, a holdout civilization from the Galactic Rim. They valued strength, conquest, and bloodline purity. The Council called them primitives. Dangerous, perhaps, but isolated. That illusion ended the day they glassed the Trask Moon colonies and declared the sector theirs. The Council held emergency sessions, condemning the Krell actions, issuing sanctions, and filing formal objections. The Krell didn't respond. Instead, they destroyed 2 more colonies and pushed into neutral space. The Council panicked. Debates stretched for weeks. No consensus on action. Some members demanded military intervention. Others insisted on diplomacy. The Krell offered no channels. They ignored ambassadors. The border system screamed for aid. The Council's hesitation grew lethal. A delegation from the Relari sector proposed a last resort, bring in the humans. They would never lead a military response, but perhaps their infamous adaptability could break the stalemate. The Council reluctantly agreed. Earth was contacted. One name was returned. Envoy 9. He arrived aboard a diplomatic shuttle. No escort, no fleet, a small black vessel, marked only with a Terran sigil. He stepped into the Council's grand assembly unarmed, unaccompanied. He wore no insignia, no weapons, just a sealed data slate under his arm and an unreadable expression. To most observers, it was a pitiful show. The alien press called it symbolic submission. The Council interpreted it as validation. Humans feared war. Why else would they send a bureaucrat instead of commander? The opening session was polite. Envoy 9 listened. He rarely spoke. Delegates questioned him about Earth's intent. He offered no promises. When asked if Earth would commit forces, he replied that it had come only to observe the deliberations. This caused visible agitation in the chambers. The Krell had just destroyed an entire agricultural hub in the Mevosh cluster. Billions displaced. Council systems crumbled into refugee crises. And the human envoy came to observe? The Council demanded clarity. A Zentari delegate openly mocked humanity's reluctance. Your species thrives on drama but shrinks from blood, he said. You fear war more than death itself. The assembly laughed. Envoy 9 did not. He looked at the delegate for a long moment. No anger, no smile, no expression at all. Then he returned to silence. Some felt insulted. Others dismissed it. The general sentiment. Earth had nothing to offer. A week passed. The Krell gained momentum. Border defenses fell. Civilian ships vanished in hyperspace. Council meetings devolved into desperation. Tactical options were presented. None gained traction. Too dangerous. Too escalatory. Too uncertain. Earth had the largest standing fleet in the quadrant, but they had made no move. The rumor spread. Humans were scared. Their silence was proof. Their inaction was cowardice. When the Council next met, they demanded a statement from Earth. Envoy 9 stood before them. His tone was calm. He spoke plainly. You believe humanity fears war, he said. That assumption is incorrect. We fear what war becomes without restraint, without doctrine, without purpose. We do not engage in war lightly. But when we do so with absolute commitment. That is not fear. That is certainty. The chamber fell silent. One delegate scoffed. You talk in riddles. If Earth means to act, then act. Otherwise, stand aside. Envoy 9 nodded once and said nothing further. The session adjourned with no resolution. In private chambers, the senior council members argued. Some wanted to provoke the Krell into overextending. Others believed surrender was preferable to extinction. A faction proposed disbanding the council entirely and retreating to protected zones. The human remained silent during these debates. He filed no motions. He drafted no speeches. He merely watched. Then came the massacre at Foro Station. Over 600,000 refugees were vaporized by a Krell dreadnought. No demands. No warning. Just annihilation. The footage was broadcast across council networks. The chamber dissolved into panic. Entire sectors demanded military intervention. Others called for immediate surrender. The president of the council issued a final diplomatic appeal to the Krell. There was no response. That night, Envoy 9 submitted a single document to the council's Central Records Archive. It was labeled Doctrine of Absolute. No summary, no metadata, no explanation. The council archivist logged it, but made no public announcement. One delegate from the Navori species accessed the file. She disappeared 2 hours later. Her home system issued no complaint. When asked about her absence, her replacement said only, "She understands now." By the end of the week, Krell ships had entered Lyran space. Council estimates projected full galactic war within 30 days. With no fleet mobilized, no united command, and no strategy in place, the Council found itself paralyzed. A closed-door emergency session was called. Envoy 9 was asked to attend. The president of the Council turned to him. "Does Earth intend to act?" Envoy 9 looked up from his data slate. "We already have." A murmur passed through the chamber. The president pressed. "Then what action do you propose?" He answered without hesitation. "Project Absolute." The room stilled. No one recognized the term. A Thalinar admiral asked, "Is that peace initiative?" "No," Envoy 9 said. "It is a war conclusion protocol." Laughter erupted from several delegations. "A conclusion protocol? You think this is a problem solved by algorithms?" Envoy 9 shook his head. "It's solved by certainty. The Krell have declared their terms. We accept, and we conclude." A senior military official from the Rixari Confederation demanded clarification. "What are you concluding exactly?" "Existence," the envoy said. Gasps filled the chamber. "You mean extermination?" someone shouted. "No, I mean elimination of the Krell war apparatus. Every ship, every command node, every asset, within 72 hours. Silence fell like a hammer. "You think we'll allow that?" the council president asked. Envoy 9 stared into him. "You don't have to allow it. You already failed to prevent it." The chamber descended into chaos. Delegates shouting, translators stuttering, officials demanding intervention. Envoy 9 turned and left without another word. The galaxy did not wait long. 12 hours after the transmission labeled Absolute, the Krell Command relay in Sector Varnes went dark. Observers from neutral systems detected nothing unusual. No fleet entered the region. No known weapons discharged. One moment, the command structure was coordinating over 70 active warships. The next, it no longer existed. Attempts to re-establish contact failed. Krell reinforcements sent to investigate never returned. 18 hours later, 2 more command nexuses vanished. Not destroyed, gone. Power readings dropped to 0. No wreckage. No escape pods. No radiation. Surveillance drones caught only one frame before signal loss. A sphere of expanding darkness, then total silence. The Krell reacted with rage. Their central command broadcast a declaration of planetary retribution. They promised to reduce Earth to cinders. Dozens of dreadnoughts rerouted from conquest operations. Interceptors vanished from patrols. Civilians were conscripted. For the first time in Krell history, total war was authorized without restraint. They expected retaliation. They expected siege. They prepared for a war of attrition. They did not expect what came next. 30 hours after the first disappearance, every Krell data beacon on the inner ring of their empire went dark. These were deep-layer security networks, subspace redundant, impossible to jam, but they vanished simultaneously. Artificial stars dimmed, planets went off-grid, unmanned facilities disintegrated from internal pressure without impact signatures. Council scientists watching the data feeds submitted resignation letters in panic. What they were seeing had no basis in known physics. By hour 36, civilian Krell worlds began to collapse. Entire atmospheres destabilized, not through bombardment, through induced entropy. Atmospheric gases turned inert. Liquid oceans became hyperdense sludge. Gravity patterns shifted in ways that broke planetary crusts. No attackers were seen. No messages were received. The Krell Central War Assembly declared the attack a coordinated act of galactic terror. They assumed Council collusion. Fleets turned toward major Council homeworlds. They transmitted ultimatums demanding surrender of all human assets. Their message never reached the Council. The transmission burst was intercepted in transit, rerouted, and overwritten by a signal carrying one word: denied. Krell High Command panicked. They activated backup arrays built to withstand full supernova scenarios. Within 20 minutes, those arrays emitted lethal energy spikes and melted from the inside out. On hour 48, the Krell launched a desperate strike. Their fleet, the largest in galactic history, mobilized directly toward Earth. They expected resistance. Instead, they found emptiness. The solar system's defense grid was online but dormant. Earth broadcast no signal. No fleet mobilized intercept. The Krell reached the orbital boundary of Neptune unopposed. Then their systems failed. Not partially. Not from sabotage. Not from cyber attack. Complete failure. Power, targeting, propulsion, all fell to zero in sequence. Their ships, once unstoppable, became metal coffins drifting dead in space. From Earth, a signal was sent. It was brief. No encryption. No hostility. We warned you what absolute means. The Krell screamed into the void. They transmitted blind rage. But only silence answered. Their ships began to implode, one by one. Not from weapons. From within, hulls warped, systems reversed, structural constants broke. No visible energy source could be traced. In Council records, the event was logged as a silent annihilation. At hour 52, the Krell leadership broadcast what would become their final message. To all sapients, we surrender. Stop. Please. Stop. No reply came. At hour 60, a single vessel returned to Council space. Not a warship. A courier drone. Inside, a report filed by Envoy 9. It contained exact timestamps, map systems, and projected psychological aftershocks. At the bottom of the file, a single classification. Operation Absolute. Phase 1 complete. The Council convened an emergency session. Their faces were pale. Their words halting. The President asked, "What is Phase 2? Envoy 9, now reappeared in person, replied, "Restoration." No one understood. Restoration of what? A delegate asked. Of deterrence, he said. One Elderthal delegate gathered the courage to ask, "How did you do this?" Envoy 9 regarded him. We remembered who we were. And for the first time, the Council glimpsed the ancient truth Earth had buried. Humanity had not always been diplomats, not always explorers. Before unification, before the Concord, they had been something else entirely. Predators among stars. Their wars had once burned solar systems. Their weapons had rewritten laws of physics for advantage. They hadn't stopped warring because they couldn't win. They had stopped because they did. Their silence was never cowardice. It was containment. Council historians unearthed redacted human archives. What they found stunned them. Project Black Requiem. The No Wars. The Omega Threshold. Civilizations lost Earth's wrath before recorded galactic memory. Not enemy species, human factions. The cost of their internal wars had nearly destroyed their own planet. So they made a pact, forged in blood. Never again, unless all other options failed. Absolute was that fail-safe. The Krell triggered it, and now it could not be undone. Even as the Krell lay broken, Other powers stirred. The Zorva coalition demanded access to Earth's technology. The Council refused. The Irana hegemony mobilized fleets under the pretext of securing neutral systems from Terran influence. Rumors spread. Was Earth now the true galactic power? Had they usurped the Council? Were they planning conquest? Envoy 9 responded with an open declaration. Earth claims no empire. We occupy no territory. We govern only ourselves. But should you seek to test our resolve, know this: the absolute doctrine remains live. The message spread faster than any Council dispatch. Reactions varied. Some believed it was a bluff. Others feared it wasn't. The hegemony fleet stalled in transit and quietly retreated. The Zorva recalled their diplomats. The Council reconvened to evaluate what authority they truly held now. They found their systems compromised. Not hacked, observed. Earth had placed silent monitors within the Council's deepest systems. Not to control, but to watch. When confronted, Earth acknowledged the oversight and offered to remove them. The Council declined. We feel safer knowing you are watching, one delegate admitted. Envoy 9 merely nodded. Earth made no demands. No tribute. No laws. No flags. Only one request. The doctrine of absolute will remain classified outside of Terran command. The Council, without argument, agreed. And yet, the paranoia grew. If Earth could unmake an empire like the Krell in 3 days, what stopped them from reshaping the galaxy entirely? The answer was the same every time. They chose not to. Some could not accept that. A splinter faction of former Krell loyalists, hidden in the dark sectors, launched a last-ditch suicide attack against Mars. They believed Earth would hesitate to retaliate again, that they would negotiate. They were wrong. Ambition, just decision.